Should video games be cheaper? Let's talk about it, but first hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you stay educated on how your money works. There's been a debate over the price of video games for a very long time. On the one hand, some have made it perfectly reasonable arguments that games have cost $60, $70 for a long time, and that between inflation and rising development costs, video games ought to be priced accordingly. After all, it costs more to go to a movie or out to dinner than it did 15 years ago. So why shouldn't games be more expensive as well? As it happens, there are several perfectly good reasons why video games not only shouldn't cost more than $60, but probably ought to be cheaper. First of all, video games rarely actually cost $60 to begin with, once you factor in everything else. The $60 retail price is just one of several revenue streams for video games these days. Other revenue comes from add-ons like DLCs, season passes, microtransactions, and increasingly from loot box purchases. Games like Call of Duty, Destiny, Division, Battlefield, and Overwatch all rely on some mixture of these other revenue streams. If video games suddenly cost $70 or $80, game publishers wouldn't magically stop relying on DLCs or loot boxes for additional revenue. It's far too profitable. Take many games with season passes that sometimes cost an additional $50. Publishers would add credits that players could purchase with real money in order to buy loot boxes. Sure, some players only buy the base game, but a very sizable portion of the player base go one or two steps further, buying the $100 deluxe edition instead, or even tacking on the season pass after the fact. Even years after, many of these players are also purchasing loot boxes to this day. Then, digital distribution drastically lowers costs for publishers and essentially kills off the used game market. A second important point about the cost of games is the rise of digital distribution. It's no coincidence that video game stock prices have skyrocketed since the new Xbox and the PlayStation 5 came out. Activision, EA, Take-Two all have seen major increases in their stock prices, especially during the pandemic. It's expensive to sell games at retail. There's the cost of the physical media and packaging. There's the cost of shipping and distribution. There's the cut that retailers take and the loss when used games are traded in and resold instead of new copies. At every step of the way, a physical video game is costing publishers like Activision and EA money. Gone is the physical media, the packaging, the shipping costs, and the threat of used games. Yes, Sony and Microsoft and Valve all take their cut of the sales, but still nothing like the cost of physical media. In 2017, for example, Activision posted net bookings of $7.16 billion. Of these, a record $5.43 billion was from digital sales. That's digital game sales, but also digital revenue from microtransactions and so forth across Activision, Blizzard, and mobile game maker King. That's over 75%, and it means that Activision's margins are higher than ever. EA, Ubisoft, Take-Two, and all the rest of the industry's publishers are in the same boat. Meanwhile, companies like Rockstar not only continue to sell copy after copy of GTA 5, they also continue to make oodles of money off the GTA Online year after year. These games as service releases keep making money long after the initial sale. And by the way, GTA 5 came out in 2013. And then, more expensive games could scare away players. Between the lower cost of doing digital business and the record profits game publishers are posting thanks to additional revenue streams, it seems unlikely that a price hike would even be in the best interest of game publishers, potentially scaring away purchases and all the subsequent revenue a lost sale would potentially result in. There's a limit to what any product can cost, and publishers have found ways around this hard cap. If games suddenly cost $70 or $80, how many fewer copies would be sold? How many of these missing sales would have been customers who later purchased DLCs or microtransactions? How much of a PR hit would a publisher take if it started selling its games for more than the rest of the pack? Meanwhile, we can already see a world where games don't cost $60 at all. The Xbox subscription service and the PlayStation Plus gives players access to a whole slew of new and old games for less than $10 a month. That's already hurting brick and mortar shops like GameStop, but it's giving players access to more content than ever. And each subscriber could potentially be the next whale for any number of these games, spending plenty more in microtransactions, DLC purchases, and so forth down the line. So what are your thoughts? Do you consider video games today expensive? Leave a comment down below and let's get a discussion started. And as always, take care of your money.